Nostalgia is a hell of an attractive lure for both creators and consumers. It's why we've seen so many blatant homages in recent years. Lifting heavily from old franchises comes with the expectation of matching or surpassing those influential titles, something Ori and the Blind Forest has to confront. It definitely borrows from Castlevania and Metroid, giving it an outstanding foundation but two huge shoes to fill. So does Ori live up to its inspirations, or is Ori left in a bland forest? Let's find out here in this review of Ori and the Blind Forest. Ori and the Blind Forest kicks off with an emotional gut punch similar to Pixar's Up. After that wonderfully orchestrated intro, you play as a small rabbit-like character named Ori as it tries to restore peace to the corrupted forest. What merely frames a progression-based platformer, Ori's story is one of the most memorable parts about it. It has very little language, none of it sensical, and only a handful of characters. This simplicity allows these aspects to weave together to tell a beautiful story of love, loss, happiness, sympathy, and redemption in a tear-jerking sort of way. The lingering poignancy of Ori's elegant narrative is able to be so powerful because of the soundtrack and visuals. Lush environments drenched in bright colors go a long way in painting its mystical world. The music is also soothing and effective, perfectly imitating the exact tone of the art style. Both complement each other so well and are the perfect example of how thematic consistency can strengthen a game's impact. Ori's gameplay is not so soothing. It follows the footsteps of aforementioned games like Metroid and Castlevania, but with a stricter leash. Super Meat Boy it is not, but Ori's jumps require timing and are more punishing upon failure. This is a welcome challenge for most of the time, since conquering an entire screen or two is extremely gratifying after you've nailed the timing and gotten the skill needed to reach the finish line. As the game progresses, it layers on more and more different abilities and really tests you on what you've learned thus far. This is usually what makes Ori such a joy to play. Usually. Flocks of enemies can make stretches artificially more difficult since combat isn't varied or precise enough to make it a viable part of the gameplay loop. Most of the globby, tumor-looking foes take a lot of punishment and can often make quick mincemeat out of Ori. Encounters are always shallow and aren't the right change of pace from the platforming. In essence, combat has no tangible positive purpose. The checkpoint system accentuates the issues with the platforming and combat. Traditional checkpoints are few and far between. Ori actually lets you make your own. This idea, however, is only sound in theory. Because death is so quick, it is all too easy to be caught off guard and sent back multiple minutes because of one swift mistake. Constant vigilance is required to minimize frustration, and that nagging pressure to always set a checkpoint stifles the rush of exploration. The game crumbles even more when it relinquishes your ability to set checkpoints. Many of the levels cap off with an escape sequence which are fitting climactic finales. Lovely in scope and visually impressive, the game requires that these segments be done in one shot. Massive difficulty spikes in these areas quickly turn awe-inspiring spectacle into controller throwing fits of rage. While the game does pretty well at juggling its soft tone and hard platforming, it tips the scale too much in favor of the hard platforming here, which sucks the joy out of each impressive set piece. Ori and the Blind Forest is so much more than the Metroidvania it is, even though it is great at that too. The power progression is well paced, and the difficult platforming put it in the upper echelon of this style of game, but the touching narrative, beautiful score, and colorful hand-painted visuals all blend together to form a cohesive, consistent experience that I'll remember for years to come. Ori and the Blind Forest gets a 9 out of 10. Thank you everybody for watching, and my name is Michael Airy, and I'm signing off. Later!